Welcome to Morgan Movies. Get ready to dive into the dark yet captivating world of Peaky Blinders, where Thomas Shelby and his family continue their fierce battle to rise from the bitter defeat of the previous season. Continuing the unfinished events, the first episode, Black Day, opens with Tommy Shelby facing a devastating defeat as his plan to assassinate Oswald Mosley completely collapses. Pushed to the brink of despair, he decides to take his own life. However, Arthur, his ever-understanding older brother, had already removed the bullets from his gun. With words of both comfort and challenge from Lizzie, Tommy gradually regains his composure. Yet, the consequences of his past battle still haunt him. The mastermind behind the sabotage is Captain Swing of the IRA, who deliberately ensured Mosley's survival. To assert dominance, Swing sends a chilling message to Tommy's estate: 3 body bags containing the corpses of Abe Ramagold, Barney Thomason, and most heartbreakingly, Aunt Polly. After Polly's funeral, the rift between Tommy and Michael becomes irreversible, as Michael vows to kill Tommy in revenge. For years pass, bringing the story to 1933. Tommy has quit drinking and made a firm resolution to never stain his hands with blood again. He travels to Miquelon Island to negotiate a business deal with Michael, aiming to establish ties with Jack Nelson, a powerful figure in Boston with influence over the U.S. president. However, when Michael refuses to cooperate, Tommy sets him up, ensuring his imprisonment. He then turns his attention to Gina, manipulating her into betraying Michael and siding with him instead. Meanwhile, Arthur remains trapped in his addiction to alcohol and drugs, spiraling further into self-destruction. At the same time, Tommy's daughter, Ruby, suddenly falls seriously ill, fueling his fear that this might be the result of a gypsy curse. In Episode 2, Black Shirt, after temporarily stabilizing his daughter Ruby's illness, Tommy receives news that Jack Nelson has taken an interest in the fascist movement. Seeing this as a potential opportunity, he decides to set aside his personal grudges and forms an alliance with Captain Swing to re-establish contact with Oswald Mosley, the very man who thwarted his assassination attempt. On the surface, Tommy appears willing to work with both sides, but in reality, he secretly meets with Alfie Solomons to stir up conflict. Alfie harbors a deep-seated vendetta against Jack Nelson's gang, and Tommy skillfully manipulates this animosity to tilt the playing field in his favor. Meanwhile, he continues to advance his business plans, rebuilding ties with Mosley and his mistress, Diana Mitford. At the same time, Tommy meets Jack Nelson for the first time, proposing a deal: insider political information in exchange for access to the lucrative opium trade. With his sharp negotiation skills, he steadily positions himself at the heart of the power struggle. However, as he immerses himself in political and business schemes, Tommy's mental state becomes increasingly unstable. Hallucinations plague him more frequently, and his seizures grow more severe. Just as he becomes more entangled in the game of power, another devastating blow strikes: his daughter Ruby's condition worsens once again. This only fuels Tommy's growing fear, as his anxieties, superstitions, and belief in the gypsy curse tighten their grip on him. Despite making significant strides in the criminal underworld, he starts to feel as though he is losing control over both his life and his family. In Episode 3, Gold, despite doctors confirming that Ruby is suffering from tuberculosis, a deadly disease with no connection to the supernatural, Tommy remains haunted by the belief that his daughter is the victim of a curse. In his desperation, he seeks out Esme, the widow of John Shelby, hoping she can help him unravel the mystery that has consumed his family. At the Lee family's gypsy camp, Esme does not hesitate to reopen old wounds, leading Tommy to believe that the curse stems from Evadne Barwell, a woman whose daughter died immediately after wearing the cursed sapphire that Tommy once gave to Grace. Esme's words ignite a fire in Tommy's mind, reinforcing his conviction that the tragedies in his life are not mere coincidences but rather a form of fate's retribution. As Tommy chases these mystical clues, clinging to the faint hope of saving his daughter, tragedy strikes: Ruby succumbs to her illness. The gold salt treatment he had placed all his faith in proves futile, leaving him once again to face a devastating loss. Her death shatters his heart and plunges him deeper into a chasm of despair, where reality and delusion begin to blur. Meanwhile, with Tommy lost in his grief, Ada Shelby is forced to step up and take control of the family business. Throughout Peaky Blinders, Ada has often remained an observer, but now, she asserts herself as a formidable force by successfully brokering deals with both Oswald Mosley and Jack Nelson. She not only proves to be the most resilient woman in the Shelby family but also establishes herself as an irreplaceable leader, handling affairs with precision and authority. At the same time, Arthur, the eldest Shelby sibling, continues his downward spiral into alcohol and drug addiction. The death of Polly and Linda's departure have left him aimless, a shadow of his former self. Tasked with handling a stolen opium issue in Liverpool, Arthur fails yet again. In a drunken haze, he is unable to instill fear in Hayden Stagg, the man responsible for the theft. Once feared and ruthless, Arthur is now a mere shell of himself, weak, easily manipulated, and no longer a figure of terror to his enemies. In Episode 4, Sapphire, after laying his daughter to rest, Tommy descends into a storm of rage and despair. In a ruthless act of vengeance, he hunts down the Barwell family and kills them without mercy, as if their deaths could somehow ease his unbearable grief. Yet, the blind pursuit of revenge brings no satisfaction, only a deeper void within him. At the same time, Esme seizes the opportunity to exploit Tommy's turmoil, extracting money from him by revealing a shocking truth: he has an illegitimate son named Duke. As Tommy drowns in his personal tragedies, a high-stakes summit takes place between him, Mosley, Diana, Nelson, and Swing. Nelson, after much deliberation, finally places his trust in Tommy and agrees to a lucrative opium trade deal. However, the meeting is about more than just business. It is a chilling display of rising extremism. Mosley and Nelson openly declare that fascism will soon dominate Europe, a dark future that is rapidly becoming reality. While Tommy is consumed by his political maneuverings, his personal life crumbles. His marriage with Lizzie reaches its breaking point as unresolved tensions erupt into irreparable conflict. Ada becomes a target of fascist threats due to her past relationship with a black man, while Arthur continues his downward spiral, lost in addiction and self-destruction. The following morning brings a rare moment of triumph for Tommy. He discovers Gina's affair with Mosley and coerces her into becoming a spy, forcing her to betray Michael. But the victory is short-lived. Soon after, Dr. Halford delivers a devastating diagnosis: Tommy has developed a malignant tuberculoma in his brain, a consequence of his exposure to Ruby. Death is now an inevitability, and he has only 12 to 18 months left to live. Despite the death sentence hanging over his head, in Episode 5, The Road to Hell, Tommy continues to throw himself into his final plans. He decides to shut down the opium trade in Small Heath to prepare for his next move. At the same time, he publicly reveals Duke's identity and brings him into the Shelby family, testing the loyalty of his newly found son. Seeing Arthur's worsening condition, Tommy secretly reaches out to Linda and offers to fund her organization, on the condition that she helps Arthur stay sober. Reluctantly, Linda agrees, and her return brings a faint glimmer of hope for Arthur. However, in a fit of rage, Arthur kills a referee right in front of Duke, causing the young man to grow disillusioned and question the morality of the Shelby family. Meanwhile, Billy, after being forced to commit murder for the first time, falls into a state of panic. Jack Nelson exploits this weakness to threaten him, forcing him to spy on the Peaky Blinders, especially Arthur. As for Tommy, he continues to manipulate the forces around him. To gain leverage in his dealings with Mosley and Nelson, he deliberately approaches Diana and spends the night with her as part of his power play. As the night unfolds, Tommy meets with Nelson and Mosley again to finalize their agreements. By this time, Michael has been released, and in his heart, his plan for revenge is set in motion. In the final episode, Lock and Key, after learning that Tommy had slept with Diana, Lizzie reaches her breaking point. She leaves him, taking Charles with her, as Tommy's fourth child also remains distant from him. Meanwhile, Arthur discovers Tommy's illness, but the two agree to keep it a secret to ensure that their upcoming plans go smoothly. Together, they head to the Garrison pub and gather the other gang members. Their true purpose is to set a trap for Billy, having confirmed that he is Nelson's informant. Likely through Gina, Billy had been feeding Nelson information, so Tommy and the others deliberately mislead him with false intel. When the time comes, Billy is lured to the Shelby estate and executed. At the same time, Duke personally expels Finn from the Peaky Blinders after witnessing his complete lack of resolve. Back at the Garrison, Swing and other IRA assassins arrive to kill Arthur. However, Arthur, along with Charlie and Jeremiah, ambush them, slaughtering the attackers. Arthur himself kills Swing, avenging Aunt Polly. As for Tommy, he is well aware of Michael's plan to assassinate him with a bomb planted in his car. Anticipating this, he has Johnny Dogs travel to Miquelon Island in advance to switch the bomb to another vehicle. As a result, while Michael basks in his apparent victory, the bomb detonates in the car carrying his associates. Tommy then confronts Michael one-on-one. The two exchange their final words before Tommy pulls the trigger, fulfilling Aunt Polly's prophecy that there would be a war within the Shelby family and that one of them would die. With everything concluded, Tommy bids farewell to both his greatest enemy and his closest friend, Alfie Solomons, before returning home for a final goodbye to his family. He then sets off on a journey, preparing himself for death. A month later, Tommy decides he will not wait any longer and prepares to take his own life. However, at the critical moment, he suddenly hears his daughter's voice and makes a shocking discovery: Dr. Halford has ties to Mosley. The truth is finally revealed. Knowing that no bullet could kill Thomas Shelby, Mosley resorted to deception, planting a man to make Tommy believe he was terminally ill. However, instead of killing Halford, Tommy spares him and begins his journey back, ready to carry out his next plans. And that concludes all the events of the final season of Peaky Blinders. However, the story of the Birmingham gang is far from over. According to the producers, Tommy Shelby and the Peaky Blinders will continue their journey on the big screen, bringing fans an intense new chapter through an upcoming feature film. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss out on the exciting content we have in store for you.